Hey YouTube shooting people, what's going on? Well, I want to talk to you today about some archery equipment. Of all the videos I've done, actually I get the most questions about archery releases. Basically a trigger system you can use on compound bows. So I thought I'd go through it again. It's time for an update. That video is pretty old. And I'll sort of show you what we're up against. This is actually the bow that we'll be using, kind of to demonstrate a little bit. It's a Hoyt Alpha Max. It's an older bow. It's a nice tomahawk to go with it. What goes better with a bow and arrow than a tomahawk? Okay, so one of the big questions I get is why don't you just use your fingers? So, you know, the old traditional way. You can, certainly you can. You need a bow that's pretty long, axle to axle, because what you're doing when you're drawing a bow with fingers, it would be like in this position. There wouldn't be a loop here. I'll get to why you need a loop in the first place. You just have your knocking point, and then you'd have your fingers. But remember, when you draw this back, it's going to create an angle, right? So the longer the axle length is, the less severe that angle is. On these short limb bows, it's too severe. It actually will pinch your fingers down, so to speak, and affect your shot. The other thing is when you're letting off on a finger release, you have much more contact area. You know, this much area affecting your string. So it's all about affecting the string on an archery when you're shooting archery. So that compared to just this, so you can see here, that's my contact point. So what am I down to? 1/4 of an inch from, like, you know, almost 3 inches. So it's a much smaller contact point. So if something goes wrong during the release, in other words, all your fingers don't come off at once, for instance, if that happens, it affects your shot. This basically eliminates that. So true ball. This is my hunting release. It goes on your wrist like so. And I prefer the buckle style. I'm really hoping this gets on camera. Let me just turn this viewfinder around so I can see. I really prefer the buckle style because there's no noise when you draw back as opposed to a Velcro style. So the way this works is you just open it by pressing the trigger, put it onto your loop, and draw back. Now when you draw back, typically what I'll do is connect it on, and I'll grab it from behind the trigger so I can't set it off. See, I'm behind the trigger here. Then when I get to full draw and anchored well, I'll bring my finger around, I'll continue to draw the bow and aim, and eventually as you aim through using your back muscles, eventually your finger will hit that and it will release. The shot should be a surprise. Okay, I get a lot of people saying the shot shouldn't be a surprise. You don't know what you're talking about. The principle of good shooting is keep your focus on your aim and start to depress that trigger, and you shouldn't know when it's going to go off. It should go off. You certainly know you're going to execute the shot, but I really don't want to hear that it shouldn't be a surprise. Those are just people that don't know what they're talking about. These releases, the True Balls, I think are really high quality releases. I've had this thing forever. It's still in good shape. I hunt with it. I beat the shit out of it, and it's a tried and true release. If anything goes wrong with them, there's some springs inside of them you can change to get them to work just fine. And the string loop here, so I have a knocking point tied in right here. Let's see if I can't. See, it's just thread. That's all it is. All this is thread for the bow, and serving thread. So just make a lump here with your knocking point. You have to know how to set up a bow, but I use that as, I don't like a metal knocking point. I don't like them. Then I put my knock above that, and then I have a string loop below the knocking point and above the arrow. Okay? And what the string loop does again is takes me off of the string, Okay, and again, it puts my contact point directly behind the arrow nock, so I'm perfectly in line when I release. This is a Scott archery release. Let me get it on here and then I'll show you what it looks like. So this one's a little bit different. It's on a string, so it's real. Okay, so the actual caliper is on a string as opposed to it being on a shaft, so it's what you like again. The other difference is you have to manually open and close this one, so you got to pay attention. So it's open, you got to put it on your loop, close it, and then execute your shot. Okay, so this is the Scott, doesn't say on here of course. This is a real hair trigger on this mofo, that's for sure. So again, what I'm going to do is put it on my string, like so. I'm going to draw back. This one I grab like this behind the trigger again. I draw back, I anchor, right? In other words, set up for my shot. And then what I'll do is move my finger here. And I don't pull a trigger, okay? I just rest it here and continue, as you can see. You continue to aim through the shot, okay? Through your peep and your front sight. You aim through the shot. And the action of your back muscles, your upper back muscles, you want to pinch them together. In other words, think of somebody putting like a roll of paper towels right along your spine, and you're trying to pinch it with your upper back muscles. All right. So you continue to do that. When you do that, you naturally will pull your arm around, and your finger will hit that trigger. You never, on archery, slap the trigger. You never want to see this. Guys like doing this stuff, you know, wham, wham, slapping the trigger. Doesn't work. The same caliper as my True Ball Stinger, the first release I showed you, except it's got Velcro to attach it to your arms, which I don't like. And the way it works is let's zoom out here a little bit. That's as best as I can. You essentially wrap this around your wrist like so, Velcro it around. I have big wrists, so, and then you Velcro. Alright, you're Velcroed in there. Here's the problem. When I draw, you can probably barely hear that, but I'm telling you, deer will hear that. If they don't run away, probably it'll alert them. Okay, and you don't want. I personally don't like that. And actually, in the cold weather, this thing's broken in very well. My daughter shoots with this one quite a bit. In the cold weather, this just gets stiffer. Hear that noise? Noise is the enemy when you're bow hunting. You can get into a completely different style release, and you can hunt with these, but these are usually for the target crowd. Target folks love these things. These sort of, this happens to be a True Ball Little Boss. These sort of thumb releases, they're called. And what they do is they have a caliper on them, as you can see here. Let's zoom in again. Here's your caliper. And you can attach it onto the string and you press this lever here. Whoops. This lever right here. So I'm on the string. I'm going to push the lever. I'm locked onto the string. So a lot of guys will set these up, leave it on in your tree stand just like that. And what you're doing then is, again, the archery release, okay, the act of letting an arrow fly is all about influencing the flight of that arrow to the least extent possible. So what these offer is the advantage of when you draw back, okay, you're going to actually invert your hand like this. So this part of your hand is going to be resting on your face, and your thumb, keep it clear of this part right here. What you're going to do is come back, you're going to get to full draw, okay, anchor. You're going to start aiming, then you're going to bring your thumb onto this thumb release part and just rest it there. Again, you're going to work through your shot, keep aiming, working through your shot, squeezing those upper muscles of your shoulders together, right? Squeeze that paper towel, roll of paper towels between your upper back muscles, and eventually what will happen is your hand will rotate this way, sort of back this way. And when you do that, it will set it off. Okay, you just keep doing it, Keep doing it and it will be set off. Now you can see, to set this thing off, look how much motion it takes. Look how much the thumb release moves. It doesn't really move very much at all. Okay, so when I'm using this kind of release, I'm coming to full draw, and this swivels around, so I'm perfectly in line, and I just execute my shot. Boom. Again, the shot's a surprise. It delivers a very accurate shot. Okay. This is something you could consider. I would say this is much more advanced because it's a super hair trigger. These are durable. I like the Little Boss a lot. Okay, this is what my daughter sort of inherited this now for her target bow. My daughter Rachel is an avid archer. She's shoots in an adult indoor league during the winter. That's going to start up soon. Highest score you can get is about a 300. Rachel consistently shoots in the 280s, or can consistently shoot in the 280s. This is a Carter release. Same sort of principle, little different design as the one I just showed you. What this has is sort of a sear system and a hook. Let's see if you can get that on camera. Alright, so the way you do this is there's a button back here, this button. You just, with it open, with the jaws open, you press the button, the jaws will stay open. Now you bring it over to your string and click it onto your string, lock it onto the string, right? And again, it's the same sort of idea, okay? Finger on the, you draw back, fingers now move to the thumb release, and I'm going to rotate my hand because I'm squeezing my back muscles, and boom, it goes off. This is my current target release. This is a Carter just because it's a phenomenal release. This is a great piece of equipment. It's got the finger hole for your index finger. It's real comfortable in your hand. It fits my hand well. And the other thing is Carter releases are really good in terms of being able to rebuild them, change the springs in them very, very easily. So I like them. This is a Scott back tension release. Very interesting. This just works off of a sear. The way this works is there's a half moon sear right here. Alright? Now the actual part that loops onto the string, this part, okay, gets onto that sear. So what's going to happen is when you're drawing back, okay, eventually your hand will rotate like I told you. You'll rotate that whole release, and then it'll come off that sear and fire. These are pretty badass, highly accurate. So again, I got to get my the part that goes on the string onto the sear, and then I put it on my bow. Now these will punch you. You'll punch yourself in the face. Okay. In this case, you want your finger on that thumb the whole time and hold it tight. Okay. Twist it around. You're going to draw back. Okay. And you're going to keep your hand more in this orientation, if you understand what I'm saying. Because what's going to happen is when you get to full draw, you're going to take your thumb off, and then you're going to start working through your shot. Again, your back muscles will force your hand to rotate down in this direction, and you will now eventually aim, keep pulling through that shot, keep pulling through that shot, keep pulling through, and boom, there you go. And actually fired the arrow a little bit there. That was pretty fun. These are punchy in the face releases because a lot of guys, when they first get these, they'll forget about the fact that you're supposed to keep your thumb here. They'll get to about half draw and they'll turn this thing, it'll come off, and you'll wind up, boom, punching yourself in the face. I've seen people get bloody noses with these, so you got to be careful. Highly accurate. These are much more for the target crowd. I wouldn't personally recommend these for hunting. A 3-finger model, okay, target archery. This is a 2-finger model. Same basic principle. It just goes on 2 fingers. Again, you set your sear, boom, you're on your string. You start to work through your shot, work through your shot. By the way, thumb comes off. Work through your shot, aim, boom. Okay, fire, shot goes off. These are your choices for releases. I can tell you none of them are cheap. Nothing is cheap in archery, I'll tell you. I think these releases can be had for the $40 to $60 range, depending on what you get and what kind of bargain you can get. Closer to 40 than the 60. These guys, you're looking at well over 120, well over $100 for them for sure. But I'd say somewhere in the $120 to $140 range for these releases. Archery is an expensive habit, folks. It certainly is. So that's what I got to offer you. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you think it's helpful. I've certainly got a lot of questions about archery releases and a lot of views on archery releases. These are your basic flavors of releases. I think these are tried and true designs. These are better, I think, for hunting. First of all, they're strapped onto your wrist. They're a little bit harder to lose. They come in all different kinds of flavors. I would, stick with True Ball and Scott. I think they make the best. And if you want to go for either a thumb release or a back tension release, I would go for something like a True Ball or a Carter. Stanislav makes one makes several that are really good too, and Scott makes some of the best back tension releases that I'm most familiar with, that I've used in the past. All right, I hope this is helpful. Take care.